Hinchinbrook Island, the uninhabited wonder of Australia. It's the largest island national park in the country, which boasts some breathtaking waterfalls and an incredible mountain range covering the entire island. There really isn't any other place like it. 3 years ago, my mate Stu and I, along with our group, undertook the Thorsborne Trail, the island's primary and relatively straightforward route. Fast forward to 2023, we decided to push our limits further by adding an extra 2 days so that we could climb the island's highest peak, Mount Bowen. Accompanied by our friend Derek, we embarked on what we expected to be a challenging climb, only to discover it was far more demanding than we anticipated.
I just need water, man.
This is our 6-day trek on the one and only Hinchinbrook Island. On the first day of our island trek, we set out on the early drive from Cairns, arriving in the coastal town of Cardwell. We hopped on board and set off for Hinchinbrook. Once there, we disembarked from the boat and began our trek along the shorelines.
Let's go!
We ascended up Nina Peak to get our first views of Hinchy and eventually reached our campsite for day 1, Little Ramsey Bay. We had an early start the next morning, as this was the day we would ascend up the 1100 metre high behemoth, Mount Bowen.
So we are going up the creek. What's this one called, Derek? Wallalera Creek. And this will probably take us, oh man, anywhere between 8 to 10 hours maybe.
Halfway through rock hopping, we stopped for lunch and had a cold but well-deserved swim.
Oh. I feel like I'm being born. That was way harder than I thought it was going to be. We're about 750 metres above sea level, and we got to go just over 800 to the saddle. Once we get there, I think we'll be able to see the summit, and yeah, we'll be away from all this, which will be great because I'm kind of over it.
After 8 hours of rock hopping up a creek that seemed like it would never end, we made it to the saddle and got our first decent views of the island. From there, we hiked for another 2 hours, and only minutes from our campsite, we were rewarded with brief yet breathtaking glimpses of the island below, which has to be one of the most incredible views I've ever seen. Upon reaching camp just shy of Bowen Summit, rain clouds settled in for the night. With water levels low, we set out to find a stream, only to discover the search extended after dark. After 90 minutes, the rain had picked up and we found ourselves at a cliff edge, which deemed too unsafe to go down in the current state. Frustrated and exhausted, we made the tough call to turn back to camp, with even less water than we started with. We just spent an extra 3 hours of hiking for nothing, and we got back to the tent about 8:30, and unfortunately we are now rationing for water, so we will be heading down after breakfast tomorrow.
The next morning, Derek, Stu and I woke to patchy clouds. Still not great weather, but it was nice to catch views of the island that we didn't get to see yesterday. After a very basic breakfast, we packed up and headed back down the mountain. Not only were we eager to get to the bottom, but we really needed to find water. I, for one, was getting pretty desperate, as I only had half a litre. Any clear water I could find would be good enough. This is all I've got for 4 hours. Hopefully I make it.
Looking forward to taking my socks off.
I'm looking forward to everything.
Drying.
I just need water, man.
4 hours after starting, I was able to deliver some good news.
Stuart, I found water.
Oh, yeah. The last few hours of the descent were brutal. We were absolutely exhausted by the time we reached the bottom 10 hours later. Our legs and knees were sore, and the burden of our hefty packs had taken their toll. Once we got back to Little Ramsey again, we set up camp, ate dinner, and collapsed in our tents. We awoke to perfect weather on day 4. Although it was disappointing not to have the same weather yesterday on top, it was still nice to see Bowen from below, and to finally get the drone up. After brekkie, we set off on our first day back on the Thorsborne Trail, heading to Zoe Bay and Zoe Falls. Upon arriving at the top of the waterfall, we relaxed and had a swim with some incredible views of the bay in the background. We may not have got the sunset views on Bowen, but we did get some here on top of Zoe Falls. The next morning's weather on Zoe Falls was just as good as the afternoon before. After soaking up all the views, we set off uphill to Mulligan Falls for our final night on Hinchy. It was a bit of a struggle getting there, as even though this was a relatively easy track, we were still feeling the effects of the Mount Bowen climb a few days earlier. Once we got to Mulligan's, we set up camp and went straight to the falls where we spent the rest of the afternoon.
I'm just enjoying my last meal on the island. Tonight, I'm having beef teriyaki, my personal favourite out of all the freeze-dry meals. Cheers. Yum, it's like the real thing.
The last day was finally here. We said goodbye to Mulligan Falls and set off for Gorgeous Point to end our massive trek. After 6 days on Hinchinbrook Island, Derek, Stu and I had reached the end of our journey, and we were absolutely spent. Although the summit of Bowen was covered in cloud for the majority of the time there, we were fortunate to enjoy excellent weather on the Thorsborne Trail. And hey, the mountain isn't going anywhere. It just means we'll have to come back and do it again. So until next time, Hinchy, here's to future island adventures.